Mallory with ERP Technologies, and I think you guys are going to get a lot out of the presentation today. We're going to give you some tips and tricks and things that you can do with minimal effort to really significantly improve your accounts receivable. And then we're going to look at some ways that you could even take that a step forward through some automation to really put your AR collections and credit management process on autopilot. So without further ado, we're going to dig right into the presentation today. The topic of the day is improving your AR for Sage ERP. And I've worked with Sage ERP systems for a long time, as Adrian had mentioned, and they're very good accounting and business applications. They have really strong accounts receivable functionality, really strong general ledger and accounting type features, and in many cases they're really strong for distribution and manufacturing. However, what they do not do is what we do with Anytime Collect, and that is to give you tools to put your accounts receivable on autopilot, to effectively manage credit that you're extending to your customers, and to effectively collect on what you've sold. In my world, honestly, and I think in most people's world, did I really sell something if I didn't get paid for it? If I provide a service to you or a product to you and you don't pay me, what's the good of that? Collections really is nothing more than completing the sales process. And most ERP systems, Sage included, Microsoft included, Epicor, you name it, do not have adequate tools or functionality to help you manage your number one asset in your business. So what we do here at ERP Technologies is we try to make collections easy. We developed Anytime Collect because we had an internal need. It's kind of funny, if you talk to our business owner, he would tell you, I know we had a collections problem. We have invoices that are out there, we're writing off bad debt. So he developed Anytime Collect. Now, our CFO said, I don't think we have a collections problem until we started using Anytime Collect ourselves internally. And then all of a sudden she said, wow, this is impressive. We're able to automate. We're able to identify problems earlier. We're able to manage disputes through to resolution and get paid. And we're writing off less money. We're getting paid faster. Our cash flow has never been better. And my question to you, or if you're a partner on the call today, for you to ask your customers is, who handles collections in your organization? Who is responsible for managing your number one business asset? And in most cases, you're probably shaking your head yes, it's either an office manager, it's an untrained bookkeeper that doesn't know how to manage collections, they don't know the first thing about it. It might be a part-time or even a full-time AR clerk, and they're just worried about getting the invoices out and maybe making sure they're correct. Or in a lot of cases, it could be the CFO or the controller. These are very senior positions in your business. But more often than not, when I ask that question, even in larger organizations, the answer I get is the bottom one, no one. There's not one person in my organization whose responsibility is to make sure that we're collecting on the invoices that we've sent out for the products and services we've delivered. And we're gonna make sure that that is not the case in your organization. I do want to also mention this. Why do small, medium, and growing companies struggle with cash flow? And we see this all the time. I talk to companies and they say, we don't have a collections problem. When the customer doesn't pay, we send the third-party collections. The other thing they say is, well, we're strong enough financially that we can absorb that, and the only time we really manage collections is we want to go out and buy a new piece of equipment or hire new people. It's really that moment when I can't make payroll. That's kind of the big one where I need to start dialing for dollars. But the reason why it's more crucial for a small company, a medium-sized company that's kind of on a fast track for growth, is because they don't have somebody that's dedicated to this position, to this role in the organization. They don't have a process. They don't know what should I do, when should I do it, how to identify a customer that has some potential problems. I don't know how to collect. I mean, how do I call? What's my messaging? and I don't understand what the financial implications are to my bottom line. And then the other one is no time, especially for a small company where people are wearing multiple hats, a small company where they're working on, you know, specific areas. They can't afford to hire somebody full-time to manage collections. So what Anytime Collect allows you to do is to kind of have an automated collector to do the bulk of the activities that need done so that you can focus on those things that require your attention. It's really a management by exception type of an application. Okay? It's very important in a larger organization too, so if you're a larger company on the call today, you know, the big difference here is that if I'm a big company, there's more chances than not I have somebody who, at least part-time, is managing collections. At least I probably have some history. I know what my DSO is. I know where I want to improve. For these small and medium-sized businesses, this is new. And the poll that Adrian just took shed some light on that. Most of you out there today are doing this manually. And we're going to walk through this a little later, but before we implemented Anytime Collect ourselves, and we're a technology company, our process was probably very similar to yours. Go into our accounting system, print an aging report, grab a highlighter, and pick up the phone. Start dialing, making notes, highlighting things, and then maybe a week later, we get back to that report. We might run another aging report and start from scratch. And we're a technology company. So there's a lot of ways that we can improve on this. Those of you using Excel, at least you have a little more information and maybe a little better process. And what we're going to show you with Anytime Collect is that we can completely replace that spreadsheet. We can pretty much replace every single thing you need to do to manage your AR. So, and Adrian had called this, or had used this for the poll, how do you handle collections? Number one answer is a highlighter and an aging report. This one's a personal favorite of mine. You know, you wait till they're uncollectible and you send them to your brother-in-law Frank. You know, he pulls some favors and shakes them down a little bit. You know, wait until you can't make payroll. That's a worst-case scenario, right? Let's start dialing. Just send them third-party collections. How about other people tell me, you know what? They don't pay me. 30 days late, I just put them on credit hold. Eventually, they're going to need something from me, and we get paid. And that's not really an effective way of managing your accounts receivable. So let's get to the topic of the day. The topic of the day is how to put your accounts receivable on autopilot. And if you look at the process of managing AR, most of what you need to do, you don't need a person to do. A system should be able to do this. I'm going to give you some examples here. We have an alerts module that's built within Anytime Collect. And what we do is we pull up your accounts receivable into Anytime Collect's database. So we know who your customers are. We know the contacts. If you have emails, we've got the email addresses. If you don't, you're going to want to get the email addresses once you see the functionality. So we know who these people are. We know what their credit terms are. We know their invoice dates based on their credit terms. So if I've got an invoice in the system that's going to be due in the next 3 days, or in this example, in the next 5 days, okay, and we're pulling in your payments and your balances from your accounting system, the system can automatically send an email to those customers based on that data. You owe me on an invoice, could be a partial past due. It's going to be due in the next 5 days, and I can just send a nice friendly reminder out. These are the invoices in question. Please remit payment to avoid any disruption in your services or your account. You know, what do we do then after that? You know, the day that they go past due, we should send them a past due notice, just to remind them, hey, you're now past due. Net 30 means net 30, and you are violating that agreement. What do we want to do at 10 days past due? What do we want to do at 20 days past due, 30 days past due? A lot of the automation that we provide in the communication via email, or you can do email to fax, all of that stuff is eliminated from your job as a collector or as a CFO or a controller or what have you. What that allows you to do then is to focus on those areas that require your attention. If you get an invoice that's over 10 days past due, have the system schedule a call for your collector. They log into the software, and it gives them a list of everybody they need to call. They then can drill in, find out which invoices they're calling about. They can find out who their contact is, and it's like a CRM system, but it's organized for your collector. Now, I'll share a story with you. When we were a small organization than we are today, I was in sales. I'd go sell something, and at that time, we did not have anybody really managing collections. So what happened is I'd sell something, and certain deals we would not get paid on. So then, 3 months, 6 months later, our CFO would come to me and say, hey, Jim, that deal you sold, we never got paid. Why don't you call them? And so, these would kind of queue up for me. I'd have, 5, 10, 20 different phone calls I needed to make. And what I ended up doing is I'd go in my Outlook, I'd type up a message to my contact. I'd have to go into my CRM system and find out who my contact was. I'd send out that email. I'd go to the next one. I'd type up another email, almost identical to the one I had just typed, right? Hey, I sold you this. You didn't pay us. Please explain why. It was the gist of the email. But I would do this 20 times in a row. With Anytime Collect, you don't have to do that. The system's going to do that for you. It's going to say, these are all the people that are past due. Send them a corporate standard communication, and then queue up my call list so that I know who I'm calling, what I'm calling about, and all the details around that activity. Okay? And you can see that we've got a number of different alerts out here. These are completely configurable. Do I want to send the email reminder out 5 days before they're past due? Do I want to send it 3 days before they're past due? When do I want to send a past due notice? When do I want to have the system tell me I need to send them third-party collections? Because that will still happen. So completely configurable around all of your accounting information. Okay? This can go out via an email. We can also attach invoices and different documents. And I'll tell you, and you guys can probably relate to this, the number one excuse that somebody gives you for not payment is they didn't get the invoice, right? Sometimes that's true. Maybe I didn't get the invoice to them. Maybe I sent it out via fax and their fax machine was down. Maybe I sent it out via mail and they just moved. There are reasons. Or maybe I'm just really bad at managing my AR and I didn't even get the invoice to them until it was past due. But what we can do with the alerts is, hey, here's the invoice that's due in 3 days or 5 days. Oh, no, by the way, here's the copy of that invoice for you. And we can attach multiple invoices to these automated emails. Okay? So I want to walk through the autopilot part of the presentation today. What can I automate? What can I get off of my plate that I don't have to physically do? I can have reminders sent to my customers before they're past due. In a lot of cases, that's going to help you right there identify that they didn't get the invoice, or maybe the invoice is in dispute. Earlier that you can identify that there's a dispute on an invoice, the earlier you can put somebody's attention on that and address that and get paid. Because again, the longer it sits out there, the less likely it is you'll ever be paid on it. I can also set up Anytime Collect to send that past due notice, right? Maybe it's the day after the payment was due. That could be a friendly reminder. Maybe at 20 days past due, I send them a more threatening letter that I'm going to send them to third-party collections or terminate their account. We don't have the ability in Anytime Collect to actually put an account on hold, right? We're not really integrating back into the ERP system from that standpoint. But I can set up an alert, and again, this is going to depend on your business. If it's 30 days past due or 60 days past due or an amount past due, at what point do I put that account on hold? The system is going to look at the information. I can even treat different groups of customers different. So I could have a set of alerts for my house accounts that are established and I've got good relationships with, because they're going to be exceptions, right? I don't want to make them mad because they represent a huge part of my business. And I could treat all of my mom and pops and my smaller businesses a little different, or maybe I've got customers that are higher credit risk. I can put them into a different group, and I can manage them completely different from an automation standpoint. And at what point in time do I put a or send the company to a third-party collections, because that's still going to be a piece of it, right? For anybody out there that's sending your customers to third-party collections, you know that every account that you send, you're actually losing money on, because they're going to take probably 30%, if not more, of what they collect. And in many industries, you're not making 30% margin on the products or services you're providing. So the real goal here is let's send less of that AR to somebody else and try to manage more of it internally. And then your other option is, factoring. You can sell off that debt to a company that'll buy it outright, give you maybe 20 cents on the dollar, and they'll then go and try to collect on that money. And that might be an option maybe after 180 days or at some point. Because again, we know that if it gets out past a year, only 10% of that's collectible. Some other things that we can do with Anytime Collect. Escalations. And this is configurable again. In some businesses, a $500 invoice is a big invoice. In other businesses, maybe it's a $50,000 invoice, it's a big invoice. Do I want to escalate an activity around my AR to a supervisor, to a CFO, to the sales rep that sold that deal initially? And when do I want to do that? We have exception rules in the system where, if I have an amount that's past due, and it's even a day past due, and it's over $10,000, immediately that gets moved out of my collector's queue and into my credit supervisor's queue or my CFO's queue, because we know there's a cost of extending that credit. Again, we're a business, not a bank. Net 30 is net 30. If you have only $10,000 and you go 30 days past due, there's a cost to that, right? We have to borrow money at a certain interest rate to be able to finance that float. What do we do if the invoice goes, past 15 days? Maybe at that point we want to escalate it to somebody more senior that can manage it. So we can handle all that. Schedules, okay? I could go in, I could print out an aging report and kind of look through it. If I'm smart, I might actually filter it by the amount past due or the amount of time it's been past due. But I kind of have to get into the information to find out who should I call first, right? Who's my top priority? We take all that guesswork out of it with Anytime Collect. You log in, and the system tells you, these are the people you're going to call, and these are the reasons why, right? Maybe I want my collector to focus on everybody that has invoices over $100 that are 10 days past due. Builds the queue for me. I go in, and I can just make my calls, log the responses, close out the activities, go in the next day, the rules run, it tells me if I still have a problem, I haven't received the payment, and tell me what my next step in the process is. The other thing that we can do is to put some logic in here around best practices. If I've got customers that are notoriously bad at paying late, I can set up the system to send me an alert to say, maybe you need to review credit terms with them. And instead of net 30, maybe you need to put them on net 10. Or a prepay. And trust me, we've done this with some of our customers. If they can't pay on terms, we'll talk to them and be very candid about it and say, we still want to do business with you, but you're going to be a prepay. Or maybe it's a 50% down. So we're limiting our risk on that account. Maybe it's a credit limit change. And you can actually do this both ways. If you have customers that are really good at paying on time, maybe you want to afford them a net 60 term or net 45 term. Maybe you want to increase their credit limit. And maybe you want to look at these in terms of how many times did I have to call them? They said, oh, yeah, we'll send the check next Friday, and you never get the check. We can track broken promises in the system. And we can put rules around this where every time they break a promise, it's a ding on their account, and we can then use that for contract negotiation, even pricing negotiations for that matter. I do want to mention this too. A lot of people look at Anytime Collect and they say, well, it looks just like a CRM system, right? We have the same types of things in Anytime Collect that you'd see in CRM. And in many cases, that's the case, right? We've got the ability to send email, to log that, to receive an email back in, to make a phone call and record the responses for that. But what CRM does not do, and this is the value proposition and where you're going to get your return on investment with a solution like Anytime Collect, is that CRM doesn't have any logic in it to tell you what you need to do, right? Again, you're still printing out that aging report, filtering it, sorting it, and then you have to go and actually make your calls. Anytime Collect is streamlining that completely and based on your process, your best practices, what you want your corporate collections policy to be. It's going to tell your collectors, all right, I already sent out an automated reminder. I already sent out the invoices. I already sent out the past due notice. It's now 10 days past due. These are the people you need to call. These are the invoices in question. Go make the phone call. Okay? And last point here, this is going to make you more effective. Just by reminding people that they have an invoice that is due in 3 days is going to get the bulk of them to pay on time. And instead of being lax, and we were guilty of this in the old days, and letting people go to 45 and 60 days, by putting a process in place and sticking to it, your customers are going to get to that point where they know that net 30 is net 30. And you're going to see your days sales outstanding go down. I'm going to just show a couple screenshots here. If we have time later, we'll actually go into the software and I'll show you some of this live. But so what happens is we set up the rules, all the automated emails go out, or faxes, or however you have the system set up. And then I go in and it tells me, well, I need to call. So I come in here, I've got Aldebaran on the screen. It's telling me that it's my P2 call. That's how I set up my alerts. It's my second attempt phone call. And why am I calling? Because they're 30 to 37 days past due on an invoice. So it's creating the activity for me. All I need to do is log in, click on that activity, come in here, enter that information, make that call, send that email, whatever the system's telling me I need to do. And then you can see here that I have an assigned to, so I can assign it to somebody else. Maybe I contacted them and they need to process an RMA, so I can assign it to somebody else and mark that off my list. Maybe they need the invoice we sent because we didn't include the purchase order number. Maybe they're disputing the freight charge. Maybe they're tax exempt and we charged them tax. Or we're a service company, we build them their own rate. So we can manage all of this in one place. We can also set calendars up. So I talked to them and they asked me to follow up with them Friday. Or they said that they're going to pay me on Friday. I want to verify that we received payment. So again, all of this kind of in one system. This one is a big one in my book, and that's the ability to tag the invoices. And what I mean by tagging is, you know, in a lot of businesses you have one-time customers or customers that buy very infrequently, and that's not so difficult to manage. It's one invoice in question, I can deal with that. But every one of us has customers that buy a lot from us, right? And they might have 50, 100, 1,000 invoices that we need to manage. So when I'm talking to this person on the other end of the line, you know, the accounts payable person in my customer's organization, I can say, you know what? These are the 3 invoices that are in dispute. Let's talk about them. These are the 3 invoices that are past due. Let's talk about those. And oh, by the way, I want to remind you that we have these 50 other invoices. They're going to be due in the next 5 days. Can you please verify that we're going to receive payment? And all of the activities that we do within Anytime Collect can be tagged to that invoice. What this allows me to do is, you know, when my boss comes to me and says, hey, this customer's past due, we're going to have to send them third-party collections, what did we do to try to collect on that? I can go in to the system. I can pull up that invoice in a view, and I can see every single activity that has occurred tagged to that invoice, whether it was a phone call, an automated email, a dispute meeting, you name it. And so this is going to make you a lot more accountable. It's going to give you all the information you need for your reporting. Okay? So if you don't already see the business case, I want to just kind of highlight some things here. PayStream Advisors is an industry analyst, and they kind of monitor this segment of the market. Based on their research, they estimate that most businesses write off, again on average, about 4% of AR. If we focus on that number alone, and there's other benefits to automating your AR, but if we focus just on bad debt write-offs, 4%. If you're on the call today, you're using a Sage ERP product, you may not be at 10 million, but you're probably close to it. Some of you may be larger. But let's just say, for an example, that you're a $10 million business. If you can reduce your, if you are selling $10 million a year and you're writing off 4%, that's $400,000 a year that you're writing off. Marginally, if you can automate, if you can send reminders, if you can get paid faster, you're going to get at least, absolute minimum, 10% improvement. That's $40,000 that goes directly back against your bottom line just by being more effective in your AR. Some industries, some businesses are even worse, and we've seen it as high as 9% in some businesses and some industries. Okay. This is some more information from PayStream on how you can realize that you don't need to make an investment in a product like Anytime Collect. You're already paying for it because your money's sitting out there and you're not collecting and you're writing it off and you're financing and you're acting as a bank and extending credit to your customers. So let's try to put that in terms of what your ROI could be in making an investment to automate this process. Again, PayStream, 10 to 20% reduction in DSO for companies that implement systems like Anytime Collect. 25% reduction in past due receivables. These are all averages, by the way. Some companies realize significantly higher returns. 15 to 25% reduction in bad debt reserves. It's also going to allow me to reduce my staff in many cases or to reallocate. If I have a full-time collector, maybe I can have them spending 1 day a week instead of 5 days a week trying to collect and reallocate them to other projects or other areas of the business. And what PayStream identified is that the investment that companies make in systems like Anytime Collect are typically recouped in as little as 2 months and usually in no more than 6 to 9 months. And it just makes sense. You know, if you sit down and look at the numbers, you're going to be able to validate this. So right now we do have some time, so I'm going to flip over. I want to walk through an ROI calculator that we have on our website. If you go to anytimecollect.com, and I'll show you that. There's a Calculate My ROI button, and you can get to this calculator, enter your information, and see if this is going to save you some money. But I want to walk through the example here, and then I'll show you where that's at, and then we'll go into the product a little bit. So, again, using this $10 million company example, what that means is that we'll probably have an AR balance of about $1.7 million. How do I know that? Again, industry average, if I look at that calculated day sales outstanding here, it's a 61.2 days. Again, the research we looked at, average is about 61, so we're right there. Borrowing costs of working capital, this is the cost of us going out and getting money when we don't have our own money in our bank, is about 6%. Depending on your credit rating, your line of credit, it's other circumstances that could be higher. And then what are our bad debt write-offs? This 80,000 number is 4%, okay? Or we can enter in that amount if you happen to know that. Or maybe it's only 2%. We can put that in there as well. So what does that mean? That means our cost of financing AR beyond agreed upon credit terms is $102,000 annually. We're writing off 80,000. And if we go down here into the expected results, I think the PayStream study said on average 10 to 20% reduction in DSO. I put in 15, right there in the average of the average. Bad debt write-offs, it was saying between 15 and 25%. I took 20%. And certainly this is exactly what we're seeing from our customers. So let's look at this. What does this mean? Our new day sales outstanding is going to be 52 days. So we're creeping closer. If it's net 30, we're creeping closer to net 30. But what that means is it was 61, now it's 52. I'm getting paid 9 days faster. That's almost a week faster that I'm getting my cash. Put it in my bank and invest in my business. Financing costs, I'm saving over $15,000 a year because I don't have to go borrow money at a higher interest rate. And my annual savings in my bad debt write-offs is going to be about $16,000. So my total savings, just by using a system like Anytime Collect, which is going to make my life easier anyway, is going to be $31,300 for this fictitious $10 million company. You can go in here and say, how many people in my accounting or credit collections department would need access to a system like Anytime Collect? $10 million company, you probably get away with one user, maybe two users, the primary person and their backup. We do have light users if you want your CFO, your controller, your CEO to be able to look at the information. But if it's one user, the ROI here is absolutely phenomenal. You're looking at 1,214% ROI, and you're going to get that within a month. So if you need to look at the numbers, you're already spending this money. You're already writing it off. You're already financing it. Take a look at Anytime Collect, see what it can do for you. Okay, so let me go ahead and flip over to the software. If you go to anytimecollect.com, it actually redirects to our collection software page. And here's where the ROI calculator is, and here's what launches the live calculator. So you can put in this information, maybe you're only a $1 million company, maybe you're only at, $150,000. And maybe you're looking at 2 users instead of 1. So go ahead and click Calculate and see what the system is going to do for you. Let's go ahead and get into the software a little bit. So it is a cloud-based application. It is secure. It's on Microsoft Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud-based platform. Now, we do have options if you want to install it on-premise. It's still launched from the cloud, but your data can reside in a SQL database on your servers or out on SQL Azure. Choice is really up to you. And the data sync from your ERP system from Sage is going to be scheduled. So you can schedule that once a day, once a week, several times a day, however frequently you want to look at the information. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in. And then this is my new dashboard. We just launched this a little bit ago. So I'm going to come in. I got some high-level information about the product. But where I'm going to probably go first is to my dashboard. Okay. Now, I can get some of this information out of my Sage ERP system. I can find out what's my aging, right? But we put it all here. It's all in one place. Some things I can't get. What is my day sales outstanding? There's nothing in any of the Sage ERP products that's going to give you that. So we're able to track what is our actual DSO and where is our target. In this case, we can put in a target that we want to be, down at 31 days, but our actuals are actually at 37. So we can see that we need to pay attention to that. Okay. Average days of pay by invoice amount. This is something you can't get out of your accounting system. You can identify areas where right now any invoice over $30,000, we actually have a 28-day DSO. The reason for that is because those big invoices, we're probably doing a better job at going out and trying to collect them. But if we look at invoices slightly smaller than that, 25 to 30,000, we're at 50 days. So maybe we need to put some policies, procedures, alerts, workflow around collecting on invoices that fall into that range. Okay. Here at the bottom, who are our top 10 customers? This is a great snapshot for a CEO, a CFO, president of the organization. Our president cares about his AR. Passionately. He loves his AR. However, he's not going into our Sage ERP system. We use Sage ERP internally. So he comes to this dashboard that he can log into and just find out who owes me money and are they paying me on time. And we can filter this down. We don't have to get into the software at all. Who's costing me the most? Who has the largest balances over 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120? He can then come over here, and because we're proactively managing our AR, he can look at what did we receive this week, what do we expect to receive next week, or last week and this week, what is expected, because we do allow you to define an expected payment. I'm talking to the customer on the phone, and they say, hey, I'm going to pay you. You'll get the check by next Friday. We can log those in the system and pull that information up here for some cash forecasting. What's the amount due? What's the total due? What do I have out there that's in dispute? And what was the total net due for that period? This is really a snapshot. When we get into the software, you can drill down, you can go back and look at it historically, and you can go further into the future as far as you would like to look at. here's the big thing too is, the president can find out what is actually going on. Were these people even called? We actually create what we call a credit issue. Credit issue could be that I have an account that's past due, needs my attention. Credit issue could be that I have a dispute to manage. It could be that I have a customer that is a new customer and I need to establish credit terms. So we can do all kinds of different issues around credit collections. How many do I have open? How many were closed? How many activities are scheduled, whether that's an email, a meeting, a phone call? How many of those were closed? How many phone calls did we make? How many emails have we sent? We also have the ability to track back. If I send an email to a customer and they reply back, it comes directly back into Anytime Collect. Again, working in one system designed for credit collections management. How many invoices are in dispute? How many expected payments do I have? And how many broken promises do I have? Okay. So again, this is all kind of snapshot type information, key performance indicators, if you will, around your number one asset. And where I'm going to go from here is if I'm a credit rep or president, CFO, whatever, I can come in here and I can look at my accounts. Okay, and again, I'm not even in the software where I'm actually performing, my daily collections activities or my weekly collection activities. So I can come in here and I can look at all of my accounts. I can see their agings. I can actually pick a customer. Maybe I only want to look at Aldebaran. They're kind of my poster child. And we'll just say it actually starts with. There we go. So we filter down to find customers. And if I click on Aldebaran, by customer online, I could find out what did I receive, expect to receive, what was the total due, disputes, and all my activities down to the customer level. Okay. I can drill down further, again online, find out for the specific customer what's their average days to pay. What is their average days to pay by invoice amount? And what's their current AR look like? And again, my boss is not going to like this. I got 107,000 out here over 120. So I know he's going to be looking at that. Let's look at inquiries. I can get a point-in-time statement here. I can look at communications that have occurred in the system. I can look at invoices and payments all online. Yep, I know. I got to pick a customer. Let's go ahead and do that. Pick my good friends Aldebaran again. Now, this is a portal that's available to me as an executive. This is a portal that's available to me as a credit collections professional. This is also a portal that's available to me if I'm a sales rep. You can deploy this out. Your sales reps, we have light users. They can get online and see what's going on with their assigned accounts. They can make notes. So maybe if I'm a sales rep, I log in and I'm going out the top to Aldebaran. I'm going to say, you know what, these invoices here, maybe not that one, so there's no balance due, or over 120. I can add a note that goes back into the system that notifies my AR team that, hey, I'll talk to them about these because they're looking to buy more product or service. Okay? Do that all online. We also have this exact same platform, this exact same product available if you want to set it up for customer self-service. If you have some big house accounts that do a lot of business with you, they can come in, they can get a point-in-time statement. They can look at their invoices online. They can, they can't make payments online today, but we are looking probably within the next 6 months to a year, being able to tie in with Sage Payments so they can click on these invoices and pay online via credit card or some other method. Okay. Let me just go ahead and drill into some of these here. So I've got my invoice information here, promises to pay, and all that information right online. Okay. I guess that's probably a high-level overview of the portal. And then from here, you'd simply go ahead and launch the collection software. And what that's going to do is it's going to bring up this product. The beautiful part about Anytime Collect is that it's a cloud-based deployment. It does run locally, and the database can reside either on the cloud in Windows Azure or SQL Azure, or on your desktop, or I'm sorry, in your domain. But I don't have to worry if I'm IT about deploying the application, updating the application. It's much like the GoToMeeting that we're using today. You log in, if there's an update, it downloads it for you. If you don't have it installed on a new laptop, You go log in, it's going to download and install the product for you. So it's very portable and very accessible, no matter where you're at, as long as you have a secured and encrypted, and on the back end, username and password to access that data. So I come in, application looks familiar to me. It looks like a Microsoft Outlook application, very common menuing. I get my collections dashboard here. I can go in and look at all of my accounts. I'm on the phone with a phone call comes in from a customer. It's Lowry Air Force Base. I go ahead and I can find them quickly. I can drill down. I can find out what invoices are here. If I'm using a document management system, I can double-click to see if they have an invoice out there. These people probably don't. Well, they actually do. So there's my invoice. So I get down to the invoice detail. I can actually set up different groups of these. Maybe I want to get an aging by sales rep. So there's an aging by sales rep. Maybe I want to look at, I don't know, different information. I can slice and dice this information however I want. Okay. But what I'm going to probably do, and this is the power, this is my collections on autopilot, is issues. So these are alerts that I've set up in the system. I've organized these by user, and we do support multiple users if you're a bigger organization. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably go through here. These would be automated, right? My reminder, my second notice, my third notice. There's no reason I have to do these. But if you want to, I could come in here. All these reminders that need to be done. I'm going to show you the manual process that would be automated. I select them all. I go to my reports. I click on my first email. Maybe that's my reminder email. Preview that to the screen. I can look at the template, make sure that this information is correct, that I'm not missing contact information. It's basically doing mail merge for me, right? So I got all these letters. I come up back in here, export report to email, send that, come in here, complete the issue, and I'm done. All those emails are done. That's the manual process. I can set all this up in the background to be done hands-off. Okay? So any of your email does not have to be done this way. Now, if I'm sending like a third notice out with maybe some threatening messaging around it, I may not want to automate that. I might want to have that here and have the system tell me as a collector to send these, really threatening letters out. So I can still look at those here. But what this is going to free me up to do is I don't have to type all those emails, all those 17 emails. I'm going to come in and look at my third attempt phone calls, and I'm going to find my customer that requires my attention. I can see the history of what's gone on with that customer. Let's go ahead and go into the communications here and actually, let's try to collect on this. And this is a lot faster. The GoToWebinar really, really slows me down. It's something with Citrix. So there we go. Flip. There we go. So this is the alert that was created for me, and I can review the information, right? I can actually, the initial one was make a phone call. Why am I calling? Who am I calling? Where are my notes? Go in edit mode. Third attempt phone call, 60 days past due. Made a call or make a call to Tom Jackson, and this is the response that I had before. I can go into invoices, find out which invoices this is related to. I can see all the other invoices here. I can see if they're in dispute, the amount that's in dispute. We support multiple currencies, the customer currencies, etc., from your ERP system. And I can review, what did I do? Did we actually send out? Cancel this one. Did I actually send out the invoices? Here I sent a past due notice, and I actually received an email back. Said they're going to pay in full. It's the 27th of 2012. We haven't received payment. So I could see we expected payment, but they didn't, so it would be a broken promise out there. Well, let's go ahead and make another phone call. So I'm going to come in here, make a phone call. I know what I'm calling about. Let's go in here. We can see all the contacts, again, brought in from your accounting system. See the number. We do integrate with Skype or soft phones around your desktop, so I could just click that icon and then talk to them via voice over IP, or we can integrate with some phone systems. And I would simply then come back in here. It's going to put a note in there. What did I do? I made a phone call, and I can put the results of that. Got voicemail, will call again tomorrow. Okay? And then I can go ahead and set up a follow-up call, or maybe I can escalate this to my manager or something else, maybe the sales rep. Let's go ahead and schedule that for tomorrow. I don't care when I call, make it an all-day event. Save that. And that's going to be put on my calendar. Let's say in the meantime, I want to go ahead and send them an email, a manual email. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to tag a couple of these invoices. Go in here. I'm going to, if they exist out there, I can attach them. Maybe I want to send them an open invoice statement. So I'm going to do a mail merge here. So I can review that. So there's all their open invoices. I can review the invoices here, and we're going to go ahead and send that email. Who am I sending it to? I'm sending it to Tom. And we do have auto signatures and everything. So we go ahead and send that out and then move on with the next activity that's in our queue. Okay? So that's Anytime Collect, right? It's not CRM. It's CRM-like. We can say what did we do, but the system's telling us what do we need to do based on the best practices, based on our corporate policies on credit and collections management. Okay? So that's kind of a preview of the system. As you can see, very, very easy to use. So let's go back to the PowerPoint here. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up with questions.